So my mom, she showed me a picture of a Chinese restaurant looking for a dishwasher, and it paid $1,600, which was 2 times what I was making. And they also provided free meals, and she told me you ought to consider that since you're so broke. I was 27 years old. I was sleeping on my parents' couch. I was making $800 a month, living in one of the most expensive cities in the world, Singapore. I remember this one particular Tuesday morning, I woke up and heard my then girlfriend's mom telling her that she should find somebody else who was making about $6,000, $7,000 a month because I was too broke. And even though I was a good person, I'll never be able to provide for her. I think that was definitely my rock bottom moment. I had quit school 7 years ago, thinking it'd be really easy to be the next Steve Jobs. And what ended up happening over these 7 years was just one failed business after another and just generally eating one meal a day. But within a year of that happening, I went from $800 a month to my first 3K a month, then 5K a month, eventually first 5-figure a month, 10K a month. And here's exactly the mindsets and methods that I use in order to take myself from struggle all the way to a much better space. Within 3 years, I was able to build a multi-million-dollar business. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly the methods I use, the mindsets I made a shift in order for you to do the same also. So we're talking mindset, framework, steps, blueprints that anyone can follow in order to do exactly the same and avoid the 7 years of struggle that I went through. But I need to warn you, this is not the overnight instant success the majority of these internet gurus promise you. And I will review also the dark side to success that virtually nobody talks about. Please stay tuned. Enjoy the video. Let me take you back to where it first started. When I was in school, I was pretty much a rebel. Not just a typical troublemaker. I just needed to know why rules existed. So I always ask why, and if I didn't hear why, then they want to follow the rules. Now in school, majority of the time, the teachers are unable to explain why rules exist. So I had a very hard time following these rules. Also, I was doing pretty well academically, so the school, even though I was not following the rules, were unable to expel me. In fact, they often had to give me academic awards because I did really, really well in exams. So it put them in a kind of a weird, difficult, tricky situation. Last of all, I had a problem following the vision that school had set for people for the very simple reason because I looked upon the vision, which was, you come out, you get a job, you work at it for years and years and years. Usually you're not happy about it. You scrap together and barely make it in order to live a survival-based life. Hopefully you get a house, hopefully you get a car, eventually you retire at 65, 70, Lord knows what. And then you die, and I looked upon this entire system that society had put in place, and I said, this is not something I want to follow. So I was rebelling against rules, I was rebelling against the vision that school and society had set up, and I just didn't want any part of it. So I was 20 years old, and I just finished my military service, and I told my parents, even though I had gotten very good grades, I said I want to drop out of university. So during that period of time, I had read a lot of successful people biographies like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, etc. And in the biographies, they often made starting and succeeding in business seem very easy. So I told my parents, you know what? I don't want to follow a traditional path. I want to go out there and start my own business, and I want to drop out of school. My parents were horrified, but I was pretty insistent on doing that because I thought it would be easy. And now what I didn't realize is that dropping out is very easy, but succeeding in business is an entirely different matter. If you don't have the right skills, if you don't have the right network, you have no capital to begin with, the only time you have is time and energy, you're in for a rude awakening. It doesn't mean that you cannot succeed, it just means that it's horribly difficult to do so. Because if the only thing you have is time and energy, you got no skills, nobody knows you, and you got no capital to begin with, you're going to have to build all these on the job while struggling. And that can be very, very challenging, which is why it led to about 7 years of just struggle and hunger. So from 20 to 27, in those 7 years, I tried every single kind of business imaginable. You wonder, you're talking about network marketing, whether you're talking about affiliate marketing, internet marketing, service-based business, kids education, whatever you can think of, I tried. I didn't get any success at all for several reasons now that I know looking back. First one, I had no skills also. When it comes to a business, there are several skills that you require. First of all, you need to have strategic skills, you need to have marketing skills, selling skills, positioning, you need to know how to do operations, etc. I knew none of these things. The only thing I knew was academic studies. So imagine leaving school at 20 years old, coming out, absolutely no skills. It's little wonder that no matter what I touched, it didn't work also. It wasn't that I was dumb. It wasn't that I was not intelligent. I just didn't have any of these skills to succeed at all. You don't know what you don't know. And so I found it very difficult to do any of these things. Number two, I had very poor self-management. You see, school has you follow a certain regimen. It doesn't emphasize a lot of discipline. It doesn't emphasize a lot of the fact that you need to self-regulate, self-manage, wake up early and make sure that things happen. So all I knew how to do was follow a deadline that school had given me. And so in a business, it requires a completely different set of self-management, self-discipline skills. You have to wake up, ensure you complete projects, make sure you finish on time, etc. In fact, be very self-initiated. During that period of time, I had none of these skills also. Self-management was really, really low. I didn't understand psychologically, mentally, what it meant to be an entrepreneur. So little wonder, no skills, no self-management, failure. Last of all, I was leading a very complicated life. And that's one of the things that I highlight to people. If you want to be an entrepreneur, one key thing is you want to have a very simple life that allows you to use your time, energy, attention in the best way possible. If you have a lot of complexity during a period of time, I was partying a lot, going out with different people, etc., etc. My energy and time and attention was diffused in many areas, leaving very little focus for the enterprises that I was building also. So because of all of these reasons, it meant that I was making very little amounts of money, $800 a month. I was sleeping on my parents' couch. I was eating one meal a day, and my mom buggering me to either get a job or be a dishwasher, etc. And I was just struggling, watching my other friends go on and do very, very well while wondering what the heck was going on. So by 27, the excitement of becoming an entrepreneur was wearing off. Eating one meal a day makes you really, really hungry. And I spent countless nights lying on the couch, staring at the ceiling, wondering, where do I begin? What went wrong? Is this the way life is going to be, etc.? It was just really a desperate and hard time. There were 3 incidents at rock bottom that really stood out in my mind. The first one is my mom went to take a picture of the Chinese restaurant that was looking for a dishwasher that was paying about $1,600 a month. She would send a picture to me and say, hey, that's 2 times whatever you make every single month. Perhaps you should consider being a dishwasher. They provide meals also, so you don't have to eat up all the bread in the house. And at the same time, $1,600 sure sounds much better at $800 a month. And I just felt that it was a really tough moment that my mom was asking me, otherwise a previously academically doing very well student, to be a dishwasher. That's number 1. And number 2, my then girlfriend's mom was telling her that she should choose somebody else because I was broke. I distinctly remember she said, Melvin's a great guy, but he's broke. Perhaps you should go after the lawyer who was making about 6, 7, 8K a month and had a car. And I think she didn't know that I overheard the conversation. I heard it, and it was and she was right. That was the hardest thing. She was actually correct. I was making $800 a month. I'm quite sure the guy was making about 7 to 8K. And, there was a huge difference in my ability to provide. And the third one was definitely, as I was lying on the couch, I distinctly thought to myself, should I just give this all up and perhaps go and find a job? Maybe a job would be much better in terms of security. Maybe all of these is a fantasy, it's a pipe dream, will never come true. And maybe this should be the end of the road, and I should just wake up to reality and just go off and get a job and just give up this entire dream. Now, it was at this rock bottom moment that I had a turning point, and the turning point was really my discovery of a mentor. Now, by chance, during that period of time, I was browsing the web and I discovered that there was a workshop in Australia, Melbourne, Australia, conducted by this gentleman called Marshall Thurber. And I'd heard of Marshall before because Marshall was the mentor to many of the top gurus around, including Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, Harv Eker, Blair Singer, etc. I just knew Marshall was the OG of all these gurus, and he had been around for a long time. I, first of all, didn't even know that he was even alive. And least of all, the fact that he was actually doing a class in Melbourne. So when I clicked there on, I had to remember page 5 or 6 of Google, I was really surprised. I was like, is this a scam? They didn't really have a photo there. I went to dig deeper, so I realized that he was indeed alive and he was doing a class over there. And for some reason, I felt really, really guided to go to this entire session. However, there's a big problem. I didn't have the money to sign up for the class, and I didn't have the money to go to Melbourne, Australia. And so that was when I approached my dad and borrowed the last sum of money from him, and I remember he said, son, I love you, but this is the last time I'm ever lending you money ever again. And with that last amount of money, I decided to fly to Melbourne, Australia to learn from Marshall and to attend the class. And that entire decision changed my life. So it changed my life. It wasn't because just he had given me a secret. He had given me a whole bunch of things that finally put together everything that I kind of learned over the last 7 years. There were principles, there were skills, there were ways of thinking, but finally there was a single person who put together all of the things that I kind of knew. And finally, the different jigsaw puzzles formed a complete picture. And when I came back, it was entirely different for me transformationally, because I finally understood how to play this game called business. So when I came back from the trip, I put all these pieces together. All the different pieces became a full picture, and it became a blueprint. And I followed this blueprint, putting and compiling together all the skills I've learned in my entire journey so far. And within about 3 to 4 months, I was going from $800 a month to a few $1,000s a month. And I remember in just a few more months later, I hit my first 5-figure. I ended the year making about 10 to 15,000 every single month. And I finally felt a transformation, because you must understand, at 10 to 15K per month, that was actually in 1 month making what I used to make in a year. In fact, more than what I used to make in a year. And I truly realized that, hey, I just literally 10x my entire income, doing that every single month. And I start to realize that, hey, there is really something to all of this also. There's something to business, there's something to the frameworks, there's something to skills. And I'm going to share with you what I've learned on this entire journey. So as my own marketing business grew, I had the opportunity and the fortune to meet my then partner, Joe, and we started to enter the promotion business because I understand something about providing massive value to people. So I entered the promotion business. We even had the opportunity to bring Marshall in 2016 to 2018 to Asia, where a lot of different people had the opportunity to learn directly from Marshall, and that gave us a lot of exposure to a lot of entrepreneurs. Marshall did wonderful classes here in Asia. First time he had been here, I think he told me, in 35 to 40 years. And we had applied a lot of skills that he taught us to be able to market, promote, position, get the messaging out also, and attracted a lot of students over to learn from Marshall. Now, Marshall had a health crisis in 2018, so then we pivoted over to the coaching business and the partnering business, being able to advise folks on how to grow their marketing. We started to attract a lot of speakers who are very interested to learn from us how exactly we had promoted, how exactly we had positioned, how exactly we had marketed. And during the entire period of time, we coached many of these speakers over to very, very huge success. They became market leaders in different fields, be it real estate, marketing, business provision, accounting, astrology, dating and relationships, fitness, etc. Whatever field you can think of, a lot of the coaches that we attracted into our X Factor coaching program, marketing program, went on to do exceptionally well as they changed and made the shift that I did for myself in terms of frameworks, in terms of skills, in terms of psychology also, being able to shift all of these things, and their business exploded as they themselves grew as a person. I think the best part was being able to support all these folks that we coach in X Factor during the COVID period. So during the COVID period, a lot of people were struggling and not doing very, very well, but we were able to help these guys navigate the challenging times and being able to leverage that opportunity of a lifetime, actually, because everyone was staying at home, and being able to provide a lot of value online, being able to teach, educate in exchange for currency and money. And ironically, during that challenging period, these guys did exceptionally well and made the most amount of money ever. And many of them went on to become market leaders. And if we look back, that's something that we're exceptionally proud of. There's another part to this story that most people will not actually share. Most people like to share about their rags to riches story, and they probably stop over there. It just seems like the whole of the entire story afterwards is happily ever after. But I want to be very honest, transparent, and vulnerable in sharing this also, which is the fact that after you start making money, or for myself, after I started making money and started becoming famous and, raking in millions of dollars, etc., I was not mentally well prepared to handle that kind of fortune and fame. Majority of seminars and books teach you what it's like to make money, but they don't teach you what it's like to handle money, fortune, and success. And when I've been broke for so long and finally I had some kind of money, I just didn't really know how to handle that. So what that meant is I introduced a lot of complexity into my life. I started buying different things, hanging out with people that were not really good for me, engaging in decisions that were probably not healthy at all for me, etc., just because I didn't really know how to handle that. And all of that started to take a toll on both my life, my health, etc., my well-being, my relationships, etc. And that was a tough time for me. I was literally a victim of my own success. As I look back, one of the things that I realize now is that money, success requires stewardship. You need to be able to know, you need to know how to handle it, or else it kind of like a weight, it will crush you from all of the bearing of it. So looking back, I now understand that the best key to keeping wealth is to be a good steward. Don't go crazy about it. And the most important thing is to have stability, to have simplicity in your life. The dual contradictions of both having the ability to do anything you want, but also picking the right choices. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you ought to do something. Just because you can consume or buy something doesn't mean you should always do it. Being very selective in the choices you make, asking yourself at the end of the day, what is the life and the vision you actually have? Not just, hey, do I have the ability to do something? Making healthy choices for your life is really important. And that was something that I had to learn also. Because I made poor choices, had to sink all the way down and to rise up again. And in shooting this video, I hope to communicate that to you also, because we can definitely, in the journey of wealth creation, be oftentimes a victim of our own success and wealth. So that brings me to where I am today. It's been 18 years since I left school and started this entire crazy journey. And so I stand before you not just as a person with a lot of skills, but as a person who's a lot wiser. There's a huge difference between wisdom and just intelligence. Intelligence is, hey, here are a whole bunch of things that I know what to do. But wisdom is being able to select and choose the right things to do at the right moments. As a person that's gone through the pitfalls of making poor decisions and making good decisions, having to recover and bounce back from poor decisions, I stand before you a lot wiser and with the idea of building a successful, sustainable business, one that you're making smart, good choices in your life so that you don't have to undo damage afterwards. So these days, we live in a world with a lot of change, with a lot of AI, with a lot of disruption also. So there's a huge need in order for us to adapt, to pivot, in order to become market leaders. Really critical. If we don't make changes, the methods that we used to work 5-7 years ago, or when I first started this entire journey, no longer work now. Every single year we're in business, change is here upon us, and the ability to have to evolve, the ability to let go of whatever used to work and learn new things that work right now is very important. So I stand for change. I stand for how exactly we can adapt to all the chaos and all the different AI and stuff going on in order for us to succeed. That's first, number one. Number two, I also stand for being able to build a sustainable, successful, long-term business. It used to just be about making a lot of money very, very fast, but these days it's about being sustainable, being successful long into the future. You definitely want to be building something that can sustain your life, that's good for your health, that's good for your mental well-being, and it's something that can actually stand long into the future. Because I kind of realize what happens when you make a lot of money in a short amount of time, don't know how to handle it, everything crumbles also. So these are the two things that I stand for. So for a lot of folks who are watching this entire video, if you realize that there's a lot of change and you wish to succeed in this climate, there's something that I have done before. I know what it takes now. I look forward to sharing a lot of these ideas with you. But number two, wisdom side, if you also want to build something long-term, you want to avoid all the mistakes that I made. You don't want a short-term business that makes a lot of money, that then explodes on your life, etc. Then there's something I stand for. So I think you get a lot of wisdom from me in both of those areas also. And I look forward to showing you and serving you and really breaking down a lot of these ideas that I've had so that you can succeed long into the future, be very, very successful, but also build something that sustains in your life and in your business also. So if you're serious about transforming your marketing, learning methods that can 10x, 20, 50x, 100x your entire business, and also stay exceptionally relevant in this day and age, and build something sustainable that can really stand the test of time long in the future, then subscribe to the channel, reach out. We've got links here, see if we can work together. I'll be happy to coach you. I think the definition of a coach is a person who has gone through a lot, and I definitely have done and gone through a lot over the last 18 years to share all of these lessons with you so you can shortcut the journey and avoid a lot of the pain, struggle, and mistakes that I've made also. These days, I work a lot with high-level coaches, consultants, service providers, sales leaders, showing them exactly how to get to the top, but more importantly, stay at the top. If this is interesting to you, then reach out. Let's find a way to work together. Look forward to serving you.